we're Wendy and Mark. We're both registered nurses. We both have a lot of very varied and mixed experiences. I'd say the majority of my clinical practice has been in mental health nursing. I spent a really long time working for the government, both as a civilian and in the military. And I retired in 2021. And I work part-time for a nonprofit that serves veterans here in Massachusetts.
And I've been a nurse for 25 plus years. A lot of that's been in mental health. But why does any of that matter? We're really here to talk about marriage, about communication, about parenting, about fitness and bodybuilding. Yeah, we are both getting ready for our second bodybuilding competition this fall. So that's exciting. But today we're going to kick off our new channel with talk about communication, because I'd say that's probably one of the hardest parts of a relationship. Don't you think?
Yeah. You know what? Communication is... Most people think that communication is really easy, particularly in a relationship, because most people's communication in a relationship, particularly as they've spent more and more time together, is typically utter nonsense. And they talk about bullshit stuff that is usually irrelevant to both people. And they do that either because they have run out of things to say, they have lost interest in the things that their husband or wife are interested in, and they've spent so much time not talking or discussing real things that when something real comes along, like a crisis or a death or debt or something like that, and they find themselves very ill prepared to do it.
Or we just avoid it altogether. It becomes like the elephant in the room. It's like the thing that you don't want to talk about, so you just avoid that topic, and it's like that's the thing that you probably need to talk about the most. So that happens. Most people don't know how to be honest, and if they're honest, they do it. They don't know how to do it without being hurtful, if that makes sense. Do you know anything about that?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know tons about that, but that becomes a thing too, because like I said, you spend so much time talking about things that typically don't matter. When you do speak about things that do matter, you find yourself ill prepared to do it, and people will typically default to the very lowest common denominator, which is non-functional. The moment they're under extreme stress, and something like even a disagreement or a crisis or even anger can spark that extreme stress, and instead of saying something that's constructive or just expressing your feelings, you say something out of anger and spiteful.
So you like lash out at the other person.
That's typically what people will do.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And well, I just talked about avoiding hard talks until it's too late. A couple examples. We actually had, full disclosure, we were going to film this a couple of days ago, but we had a lot of communication that ended up getting in the way because, well, our daughter had just left for going back from leave, being home on leave for the Army, and I was probably a little emotional, and we got in a big fight, and yeah. So last summer when we were prepping for our first competition, and it was like around this time, it was maybe we're like 10 weeks out or so. It was July. We were on vacation. I remember we were up in Acadia, Maine. It was beautiful. And I was starting to get lean, and I was trying to pose, and I said something about my calves. And what did you say?
I said you didn't have calves. I said you had cankles.
He said I had cankles. He actually said I have cankles.
It was constructive criticism.
It did not feel constructive at the time. I was pissed.
Actually, she hung on to her almost the rest of the trip. And even when we weren't hiking or rock climbing or any of that, we decided to go into town, and that's where Wendy's communication took a dive.
How did it take a dive?
You had a tantrum.
I did not have a tantrum. What did I do?
You got very angry at me and started raising your voice and stomping your feet.
I was mad.
Yeah.
I was mad.
Yeah.
I mean, cankles, you don't just come out and tell a woman they have cankles. That's...
Tell a guy that they got fat guy calves.
Okay. But can you think of a better way you might have said that maybe the delivery would have landed better?
Yeah, probably.
What do you think now? If you could go back, how would you have said that?
I don't know, because frankly I don't even remember saying it. So.
I remember.
And I don't even remember the context. So so I don't know what I would say differently. That and I probably said it with some silliness behind it.
Well, yeah, you don't silly.
And she didn't find it silly.
That was not silly. Yeah.
I probably wouldn't say anything.
Yeah.
You know.
I don't have cankles anymore.
No.
I started training my calves really hard.
Yeah.
Anyway.
You also lost weight.
Yeah. Well, I think marriages probably end over things like that. Seriously, it's not.
Yeah, that's extreme.
It's not extreme. Not extreme.
And I was probably intending to be helpful.
I didn't make it up. Okay, and then the other example was the other day in the gym, and you said you were trying to be helpful, but you said my posture was stooped, and I had my AirPods in, so I didn't hear your words exactly, but you just came over and did this hunched over sort of gesture.
I was trying to be helpful.
Yeah. That didn't land well either. Anyway, we worked through that one too. And what would you do in the future if you wanted to correct my posture?
Actually, after our long discussion about it, I said that I was under the impression that I had been helpful all along, and that I didn't have any malice behind it, and that was clearly your interpretation, and I didn't realize that it upset you so much, because you never once said it upset you. So because of that lack of communication, me as the sender was uninformed that you were bothered by something.
But then I told you I was bothered.
Yep, and I said that I'm not going to make any of those comments ever again.
Right.
And since that time, 2 weeks running, haven't said anything.
Well, you can, if you have an observation, you could maybe ask permission. Can I make an observation?
Actually, I think what the better advice with that is particularly if you know, right? Like I should probably know better, because I already know that Wendy has a lot of sensitive hang-ups about her appearance and how she, how people perceive her, and had some difficulty getting a little bit older. And, knowing that, then clearly I should have been more thoughtful and more sensitive about things. So I would say the best advice would be to not say anything, and it would be to wait until if the person has a moment that they want your assistance. Like, why does she need my assistance? She has a coach.
Yeah. And probably using the term hang-ups isn't the best way to phrase it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. So.
What would you call it?
Things that I'm maybe sensitive or self-conscious about.
Mm-hmm. And colloquial, that's a hang-up.
Okay. That's a good segue. How to be honest without being hurtful. So, like I just said, ask permission before giving feedback. So we could say, is this a good time to talk about something I noticed? What do you think?
Sure.
Use gentle startups. Can I offer an observation that might help? Can I offer an observation that might help?
Sure.
Be mindful of timing and tone. So, and you know what? As nurses working with mental health patients, we do this. Right?
We don't do this. It's part of, we think that, we ought to do this all the time. But the truth is that that even though these are great bits of advice, they're, let's face it, if you're watching this video right now, and particularly if you're a man right now, you're saying, I never do any of this. And if you say you do, guess what? I'm going to call you a liar, and you can try to defend yourself in the comments. And then I'm going to ask you your phone number, and then we'll talk about it. And we'll see how truthful you are. Because the reality is a lot of these things, are, this could be pulled out of that book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Because one of the things that we need to remember is that men and women perceive and send information different ways.
I agree.
And that's one of the things that we often forget. And sort of what we're not mentioning in this, of course, things that we're speaking about right now seem to appear to be very one-sided from Wendy's perspective. But in saying that we're both nurses, so we should we do this every day. I don't do this every day because my approach is extremely different in everything that I do than Wendy's is. I tend to be very direct.
It's true.
I'm very assertive. I make my presence very well known, whether you want to know it or not, and I'm very comfortable with that. And unfortunately, it backfires on me because sometimes, other people aren't comfortable with it. And I'm not always great at knowing when they are or they aren't. So luckily, Wendy is right there to point it out for me.
Well,
so,
not always. I don't follow you around. I'm not at work with you. I don't. Yeah, you get yourself into trouble sometimes on your own
mischief.
Without me.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to talk about just your experience in the gym just now? Or do you want to skip that one?
No.
Okay. All right. So, you know what? We're going to talk a little bit about a couples workshop we went to. It was the first couples workshop we went to, and I dragged Mark. At the time, I had to drag him because it was at a yoga retreat center at Kripalu, which is an amazing place. Yeah. But he was not thrilled at the idea of going to a yoga retreat center.
No.
But it was with Harville and Helen, who wrote Getting the Love You Want, which is, actually, I haven't read the book. I have to say I haven't read the book. But
yeah, we've looked at the book.
Yeah, we have looked at the book.
A couple times.
And it's highly recommended.
Yeah. Highly
recommended.
We got it firsthand.
Their workshop was amazing.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
What was your big takeaway from that?
I had a lot of takeaways. Some you won't like, but
well, go ahead. Say it anyway.
One of the things I thought was very interesting was when we were I forget exactly what we were talking about. We were talking about feelings or emotions or something like that. and you got up and ran out of the room, and and I of course went out to check on you to see how you were doing, and you seemed more puzzled that somebody else didn't come out and check on you, and you made a comment that it was always me who came to check on you, and that really stood out because I didn't understand why you were so surprised at that, you know. So that's one thing that I remember very, very clearly. But I think one of the takeaways that I learned from the two of them, they're both psychologists, and it was that they didn't have all the answers, and everything they talked about was from their own lived experience, kind of what we're doing right now, except they charged a lot of money for it, and you know, and so I think a lot of the things that they spoke about, I already knew, and I think Wendy already knew, but you know, it was trying to place them into action, I think, was the bigger thing.
Well, they had a few practical things I remember specifically. Like one example was, instead of just launching into telling you about something at a time that's maybe not the best, is like asking, is this a good time to talk?
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, even setting an appointment,
Mm-hmm.
like to talk about something.
Sure.
Because, you know, if it's first thing in the morning and you're trying to get ready for work, or your mind is just engaged with trying to do something else, it's not the right time to have a heavy conversation about, you know, something that's gonna derail you from what you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yep.
So that was a good one. And the just doing something silly together, like something funny or making each other laugh.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good one. So they had like a list of practical tips that I think after you've been married for a long time, you start to just, you know, things can get a little stale, or you take each other for granted.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good point. Not so much the taken for granted, although, but I highly agree with that. Mm. I think that one of the things that we're not talking about, and or I should say that Wendy hasn't talked about, is, you know, all of the positive things that happen every single day.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, she points out a couple of things, you know, that I did that really upset her. We're not talking about any of the things that she's ever done that have really upset me.
Well, because we were talking about communication.
Yeah.
And so usually those things happen because of a miscommunication, or communication that could have gone better, or communication that didn't happen that ought to have happened.
Sure.
That's,
so yeah, those would have been in all those examples. Yeah. But you know, and we do actually make each other laugh like every single day.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a definite. And I'd say 97.5% of the time we have great conversations where I think we do a really good job, you know, communicating what's on our mind, how we feel about something, and like sharing things.
Yeah, we do that. And we're very good at not attacking each other. Yeah. Like if we're upset about something, or angry, or stressed, or tired, we don't take it out on, we might take it out on each other, but we don't use personal attacks, like, you know, start picking on each other or calling each other names. No. Or we're good at using our I statements, you know, instead of you always do this, or, you know, say I feel.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important thing as well, because like earlier when we started this business here, and when I said that people talk just about nonsense, and when real things happen, they're just ill prepared to handle it. And some of these things that we've mentioned along the way, if you don't do these things, that's what's bound to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know somebody, right? You could probably think right now, like right off the top of your head, name like 4 or 5 people that like maybe it's probably a coworker, right? You have a coworker right now who says to you, "Oh my God, my wife is such a fucking bitch," or you have a coworker who says, "My husband is such an asshole," so you've heard it, right? And if you say you haven't, again, I'll call you a liar. You can put it in the comment section, because you all know that that's true, and that's not something like, I don't know if she's called me an asshole to somebody.
No, I don't do that.
But I could tell you, and anybody, if somebody who knows me is watching this, knows I've never said anything derogatory about my wife.
Yeah, I'd be mad at you for something, but I don't start name calling.
She's constantly mad at me.
Not constantly.
Almost every day.
No,
Yep.
Not every day.
Not
every day.
Yeah. Well,
but you know what? That's
I'm a lot
the other
to
thing.
handle.
Is you're a lot, but you are a lot. Is when we get mad, we don't do that, like stop speaking.
Yeah.
I've heard of couples who just will like be in the same house and they just don't talk to one another, don't acknowledge each other.
Yeah,
like
it's horrible.
I can't even imagine. That just sounds tense.
Yeah.
I can't. I wouldn't be able to deal with being that tense. So you have to stay connected, even if it means having those hard conversations about things you don't want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't like to talk about things you don't want to talk about. But
Well, neither do you.
No.
And that's
Nobody
does.
And
that's precisely how we got to the debacle we got into the other night, and the debacle we got into before that.
Right.
Because Wendy was so angry that and she wasn't doing a good job at telling me what was wrong.
Well, sometimes it takes me a while to figure it out.
And so by no means am I complaining about it, because I actually know this about her. So it's not like, I don't really even see that as as a negative thing. I sometimes almost expect it, depending on what's happening, and sometimes I do my best to try to be supportive, but what ends up happening sometimes, what me trying to be supportive gets misinterpreted as something else, and then I get yelled at. So
but here we are, still together.
Right.
So,
yep.
And we've been through a lot, believe me.
Oh, Christ.
So hit subscribe and we'll keep telling you more about it. You probably learned something. If you're just starting out raising kids or navigating a marriage or trying to figure out how you manage to stay married while you're raising teenagers, because that's a rough one too. We can definitely talk about that.
Yeah.
But last thing I want to talk about is when I finally, after I don't know how many years, decided to listen to Mark and follow his coaching and training advice. For years and years, I just sort of did my own little thing at the gym and ate healthy and, did these sort of HIIT workouts and did a lot of cardio and ate kind of a crappy diet, if we're being honest, but I thought it was healthy. And meanwhile, I kind of made fun of him. I did make fun of you sort of he was like like so rigid about what he ate, and so rigid, I called it rigid, about not missing workouts. And even if we like went on vacation, he had to find a gym. If it was a holiday, you name it, he would still get his workout, his training in. And I just thought that was like so extreme, totally over the top. I honestly, I just didn't get it. And then,
in fact, when I would get excited about it, Wendy would do her best to turn that volume down, and go so far as to even say that she's not impressed by it, or she's not interested in it, or it doesn't matter. Which of course, right, aren't good strategies at all, right? They're not good communication skills.
They're not.
Because that left me wondering, am I doing something wrong? And there I am, puzzled, going, man, I just came back to the gym. I was being awesome. How could this be wrong?
I didn't know what I didn't know at the time.
Right, but you know what? We're beyond.
I just got to the point, like, the kids had left home. I had turned 50. I was in like this total funk, and I just said one day, I'm just gonna start training hard in the gym and clean up my diet and see what happens. And I asked Mark to write a program for me, and I started tracking my macros. And it was honestly life-changing.
Yeah. I wish maybe on another segment, Wendy can find some, some quote unquote before and after pictures. Because, honestly, she's always been relatively athletic.
I can put them in on this.
And healthy to an extent, but again, a lot of it is interpretation, and but kind of what I do is lifestyle. It's not it's not a diet. It's not just going to the gym. It's things that made my professional life better, and more functional, and made me, physically adaptable to a lot of things. And when Wen started doing that, just by changing her diet and looking at macronutrients and seeing what she was actually eating a day and drinking water a day and training with a certain degree of intensity, when she said it was life altering, it was even image altering.
Yeah.
Totally. She's always had a fair amount of appreciable muscle, but in a matter of weeks, she it matters more to people when they start to see visible changes.
For sure. That's very motivating.
And then and I sort of remember that, like she came home from a morning workout, and she was so excited, and she was like, look at this, and she like struck this pose, and we have a picture of it, and it's she's hitting this double biceps thing, and before she ever did that, didn't look horrible, but it wasn't even comparable. And so, and then being here, of course, every single day, you don't notice subtle changes as much. You just notice like big changes, but that was almost like a dramatic change. It literally almost happened overnight. And I think that's when she started taking things seriously. And then one day she's like, I think I should be a competitive bodybuilder.
I was like, yeah, why not give it a shot,
so
right?
There's that.
Yeah, so we did it. That was
which is interesting, because I had no intention of being a competitive bodybuilder. I was happy just doing my own workouts and giving her suggestions and training, and but you know what? It made more sense for us to do it together.
For sure.
And we have a couple of friends who are couples who are bodybuilders, and I don't mean just people who go to the gym together. I mean, it's we're amateurs, but we are competitive athletes, and it's brought us together in a new dimension. It's brought up some things we've been able to reminisce about that mm-hmm. we've kind of kept alive with ourselves for the last quarter of a century, mm-hmm. and there's been plenty of, I think, new discoveries, and sharing different things, and and it doesn't mean I have all the answers. There's plenty of things Wen comes across and says, check this out. And I'm like, wow, I never even heard of that.
And you know what? Now we have coaches too. So,
right.
Yeah.
Right. So.
He started off like doing my programming, but now mm-hmm. we have bodybuilding coaches.
Yeah. Because we did think, I know I have the ability to coach her and do her program design and her diet, but I really didn't know anything about getting an athlete ready to step on a stage.
No, show prep's a whole
science. It's a whole other ball of wax. Sure. And even having our own coaches, like, our coaches do coaching and they're great. We have separate coaches, and they both have their own separate styles. But during the off season, so to speak, it's they're like a computer program in the background that just runs in the background, mm-hmm. and they're there, but they're not really there. And then all of a sudden, you're 16 weeks out of a show, and then boom, they're on you every single day. And we're on each other every single day.
And I can't even imagine trying to do this, like just one of us doing it and not the other. The other one just eating whatever and not tracking their meals, and
it would be terrible. If it was me, she would be like not even show up for the show. She'd be like, yeah, you know what? It's damn true. She'd be like, oh, I had to go for a walk or some other nonsense. Of course I'd
be there.
No, I don't believe that.
Well, he doesn't believe it, but I would be there for sure. So. Anyway, how we embrace our differences, because we are very different.
We're not as different as we think we are sometimes.
Yeah. Well, actually, I remember Harville and Helen and Harville talking about conflict being natural and normal and not something that you avoid. You have to have conflict.
Right.
It's actually when you avoid conflict that you get into trouble. Yeah. So.
If you're not having conflict with your husband or wife, I gotta tell you, you got more problems than you're aware of. I can tell you about it. You can ask me some questions what I mean by that, and I might answer them. But you already know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so, yeah. If you're not having conflict, it means you're avoiding the things that you're probably would be having conflict.
Yeah, there's a lot more to that, but
anyway, conflict is normal. You need it for growth. It's normal. And Mark hates the saying "let's agree to disagree." I don't say it, but there are some things that we just aren't going to agree on.
For 48 years, I thought the expression was tomato potato, and apparently it's tomato.
Potato.
Yeah, potato.
Yeah.
So there's that.
So, and we stopped trying to fix things for each other.
Yeah, we fall into that trap though every now and then, and I think that's actually kind of normal. And I think there's a difference sometimes between wanting to fix somebody to change them to meet your needs versus attending to their needs to help them with whatever is causing them to not be at ease.
Although sometimes, and I'll say this, yes, there is a difference. I agree. But sometimes you just want to have somebody listen, but they don't necessarily need to fix it for you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's actually great advice.
Yeah. So I need you to listen and validate. So like, I hear what you're saying, or I hear your frustration. I see how upset you are.
We just had one of those before we started this video.
We did. And then sometimes it's, what can I do to help?
Yeah.
Yeah. You say that a lot.
I do.
What can I do to help?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just a hug.
Yep.
Yeah.
I say that too.
Yep.
Do you need a hug?
Yeah. Sometimes I need a hug. So, anything else you want to offer? I think the not trying to fix things, because then it's almost like saying either you can't fix your own problems, or
it's saying you have a problem.
Yeah.
And that's a problem, because if it is a problem, you already know it's a problem. You don't need somebody else telling you it's a problem.
That's true.
You either need somebody to just listen, because sometimes I see people for therapy, and sometimes I have sessions where I barely say anything. I say, please have a seat, see you next time. And sometimes that's about it, because sometimes not saying anything is the right thing to do. And it benefits the person, because they get to get things off their chest, and they get to say what's on their mind. And it benefits you as the listener, and not you don't need to be in a therapeutic role. This is your relationship role. It benefits you as the listener to actually work on your listening skills and make sure that you're understanding. Because we have those kind of discussions, and there's plenty of times where I'll say, I don't know what you mean. What do you mean by that? Or what does that mean? Because I'm not going to know all the time. So yeah,
that's true.
Right.
That's true. Yeah, sometimes you just need to be listened to.
Yeah.
And not try to fix things or solve a problem.
Right.
But I think listening's the hardest thing. I still work on it. Sometimes I get excited in conversation, and I feel like I need to jump in and say the thing I was thinking of before I forget. I think that's an ADHD thing.
The prime example of that is I was gone all afternoon, and I wasn't in the house more than 1 minute, and Wendy had her phone in my face showing me something of a video that she made.
Yeah.
She didn't ask me how my workout was. She didn't even ask me where I was.
I didn't even ask permission. I didn't say, is this a good time?
She didn't do anything.
I didn't do any of those.
She gets excited.
It's a work in progress. I do. I get excited.
And I know that. And I know that. I know she gets excited about things. Yeah. And sometimes I even say that to her. I know you're excited about this, but I haven't had any coffee yet. Don't.
I don't do it in the morning. I know. Yeah, I know in the morning. In the morning, you're just trying to wake up. We could do one on those morning routines where people have their morning routine and they're, shoving their face in a bowl of ice.
Yeah.
And
what a bunch of nonsense. When I was still on active duty, I was a morning person because I had to be. And but I never liked it. It's sort of like I had to run, but I never liked it. And I always did better when I was working nights, and I was on night duty, because it seemed better for me somehow. Wendy's a morning person.
I love morning.
Yeah.
Morning's like my favorite. I like to get up and just have my space and my quiet, and
morning
I love when the sun's just coming up, and that's when I'm in my prime. And then by like 7:00 in the evening, I'm done. I can't. I'm like, my brain shuts off. I can't think.
I can
can't
do all
formulate
those.
a
I can do all
sentence.
those things because
Yeah.
normally, like when when it's not summertime, I have a set wake up time during the week, and on the days that I work outside the house, I have a set wake up time, and they're both very early, and I don't particularly care for them, but I do them anyway. But when I don't have to, there's I have to be checked on because
He'll just sleep.
I'll sleep.
He'll sleep. So that's we're definitely different in that sense, for sure.
Yeah.
Although we could tell you about another episode. We'll talk about when the kids were little and what that was like for you first thing in the morning. So we'll next episode will be on parenting.
Sure.
So let us know your parenting issues and specific questions.
Put them in the comments.
Yeah, we raised 2 daughters.
Yeah.
Somehow we survived that. They're young ladies now, young adults, and they're in and out of the house. And I wouldn't go back and do it again.
No.
I mean, I would do it again. I wouldn't not do it, but I wouldn't go back in time and live through that again if I had the choice. Because it's hard. Yeah. It's really hard. Yeah. So anyway, that's it for today.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you again soon.